Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grand Football TV. It is game week 33 as we look at the review for the preview for the games coming up this weekend. Yes, and the games are coming thick and fast. Before you know it, the season is over. So before we go into the games, I just want to make a huge shout out to all the teams that were in Europe this week. We had a bit of mixed results where we had the big guns, Man City and Arsenal, drawing their games against Real Madrid and Bayern Munich respectively. And then in the Europa League, not so great results. Liverpool and West Ham losing to their opponents. Liverpool with a shock defeat at home to Atalanta, and West Ham losing away from home to a well-respected Bayer Leverkusen side. But the only upside as well was Aston Villa winning their own game in the Conference League, where they won against Lille, where they won 2-1. So it is a bit of a mixed result. So Aston Villa, the only team who won in Europe this midweek. We'll see what next week brings, because the games will be very, 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 very interesting. But I see at least 3 or 4 of those teams going through based on the results they have. And we'll see how that happens. So we'll go straight into it when we look at the Premier League. And the first game we'll look at is the early kickoff on Saturday. Newcastle versus Tottenham. Oh, we remember what Newcastle did to Tottenham last season when this game was already wrapped up in the first half. But Tottenham have been rejuvenated since then. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. If they come to, the tsunami and try and get a result. If they can come to Newcastle and get a result. It'll be interesting to see. But Newcastle will be buoyed by their last win away from home as well. I mean, Tottenham also recorded a win, but Newcastle playing at home would want to make sure they win this one. Yeah. So, I'm going for a Newcastle home win. Newcastle home win. And then we'll look at the second game. Brentford versus Sheffield United. Brentford versus Sheffield United. That's probably going to be an interesting game, because Sheffield, I must say, they've been showing a lot of fighting spirit lately. I mean, they might not be getting the results that they want, but they're showing, that they can fight. Especially like the last game against Chelsea, where they were able to draw against Chelsea. That's a huge result for them. And that would have given them a lot of confidence going into this game. So I reckon this game, it will be an interesting one, because Brentford will not be happy from their last game, where I think it was Aston Villa they were playing, and they were leading but couldn't hold on to the lead and drew the game against Villa. So I reckon this game, they would want to make amends, especially being at home gives them time to, respond and respond properly. And what a team to play when you want to respond properly. The team at the bottom of the league, so that you can beat them properly. But like I said, Sheffield will not just lie down and take a beating. So I'm going to go for a Brentford win, but a very, very slim win. Very slim win, I reckon, would happen. Burnley versus Brighton. Burnley versus Brighton. That should be an interesting game as well. And Burnley at home, they would also want to get these points on the board, because every point at this stage of the season matters. But because you're playing Brighton are a good side and they actually know how to play. So it'll be interesting to see if the Brighton we know turns up and are able to beat them, or Burnley just run away with it at home. But I'm going with a surprise home win, because I think Burnley would, dig deep and try and get a result from this one, because they actually need the result. Every result, like I said, from now to the end of the season matters a lot. It matters a lot. So we'll see how that one goes. Then Manchester City will be playing Luton. Man City will be playing Luton. Now, you're not sure what City team's going to turn up for this one, because I'm sure they will have one eye on the midweek Champions League game, the return leg against Real Madrid. So they might rest some players, or some players that you would expect to actually start won't. You might be surprised Foden's not playing. You might be surprised De Bruyne might not be playing, or even Haaland might not be playing. So it'll be interesting to see how they set up for this one. But whichever team that turns up, they should still be able to beat Luton. But remember, that's not how football goes. That's not how football is. Luton, fighting for their lives as well, could turn up. I know the only reason I'm a bit not 100% going in for Luton to turn up is because of their injury concerns. They've got a lot of injuries in their squad, so they might not have the right people to help them push in this game to make sure they don't lose. So I reckon they will still lose the game, maybe by a 2-goal margin. But you would see, I'm sure with every team that turns up for Luton, you would still see that fight from them. So I reckon they would lose the game, but not by much. Not by much. Then we have Nottingham Forest versus Wolverhampton. Nottingham Forest versus Wolves. Nottingham Forest would want to make sure they keep getting points on the table, considering their points that were taken off them. So they will try and make sure that they keep pushing, getting points. And Wolves look like a good team to play in this time, because Wolves haven't been totally great of late. So it's a case of where you can capitalize on that and get a win against Wolves. So I'm going for a Nottingham Forest win. Bournemouth will play Manchester United. This will be an interesting game, especially for Man United, who are trying to fight to get further up the table. Try and push to see if they can catch those in 5th and 4th. But it might be tricky, because those ones are winning as well. But they have to win their own games and just hope for the best. So I reckon this game, Bournemouth would come out all guns blazing. Remember the last fixture where they played really well? So I reckon this one they will play well as well. And I think they will strive to make sure they get those 3 points on board. So I see Bournemouth nicking a last-minute winner against Man United. So I've gone for a Bournemouth win. Liverpool will play Crystal Palace. Now, after the shock defeat yesterday against Atalanta, you're not sure how this team are going to react to that. If they're going to come back all guns blazing, or if they're still going to be trying to lick their wounds and say, well, we'll probably get it right soon. Now, because it's business, this is the business end of the season, Liverpool, they would want to make sure they right that wrong that they did against Atalanta. So I feel sorry for Crystal Palace, because they seem to be getting these teams when they've just been hit. Last time it was Man City, now it's Liverpool. So I reckon Liverpool would try to win this game, but if the right Crystal Palace team turn up, with the likes of Mateta and the rest of them getting themselves on the score sheet, it might be a tricky one. It might be a tricky one where, Crystal Palace might just nick a draw or something. But I'm going to go with a Liverpool win. They know what's at stake. Lose this one and then there's problems. The season might be over before it even started, in this run-in to the end. So I reckon Liverpool would win. Then we have like a mini London derby. West Ham will play Fulham. West Ham versus Fulham. I reckon West Ham as well. What team would turn up after that loss in Europe? If they would want to make sure they get a good result, or if they'll be tired out from that game, you never know. So I'm going for a draw in this one, because I'm not sure if West Ham would have fully recovered from that game, because that game took a lot out of them, in Germany. But we'll see how this game goes. And Fulham have got all week to prepare. So I reckon that Fulham would probably either edge it or end in a draw. So I'm going for a draw in that. Then we have Arsenal. Arsenal will play Aston Villa. That's a big game for the weekend for me. Arsenal versus Aston Villa, first versus fourth. So we'll see how this one goes. Or is it first versus fifth? Yeah, Aston Villa's fifth, Tottenham's fourth. Tottenham fans, don't come for me. Yeah, Aston Villa's fifth. Yeah, so I think Arsenal, the result in midweek wasn't totally great, but this is a game where they can make amends, especially if they remember what Villa did at their ground. I hope that's still fresh in their memory. So they go into this game, ready for war, ready to kill everyone on the pitch, literally. Yeah, so I reckon that Arsenal should win. They should win, and should win at least by a two-goal margin. Two-goal margin. So I'm going for an Arsenal win against Aston Villa. Aston Villa as well, don't forget, they were the only teams to win in Europe this midweek. But you never know, because it was a Thursday game, if they'll be ready on Sunday based on how they've had to prepare for the European game. So we'll see how that one goes. So I'm going for an Arsenal win. And then the last game of the weekend, Chelsea versus Everton. Chelsea versus Everton. Ooh, I reckon Chelsea would need to make sure they win this one. After that poor showing against Sheffield, they would want to come out and right that wrong. But Everton, on the other hand, they've been docked another 2 points again. When is it going to end, guys? This docking of points. But they're still not in the relegation zone, luckily for them. So they're going to try and make sure it stays that way by winning their game. And Chelsea are not playing great, so this is a game where they can actually believe they can actually go to Stamford Bridge and get a result. But we'll see how that one goes. We'll see how that goes. But I'm going for a slim Chelsea win. A slim Chelsea win. Yeah, so guys, that brings us to the match preview for the week. Don't forget, if you're just joining us for the first time, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to share it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching it on YouTube. Don't forget to do all these things, guys. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.